Every single month, this destroyed warehouse in Puerto Rico brings in $2,000 in Airbnb profits. This is an in-depth, behind-the-scenes interview I recorded with Kimary, who will take us behind the scenes of our Airbnbs. This isn't one of those surface-level interviews. We dig into every detail of what Kimary did to succeed, so that way you can apply it yourself. These deep dive interviews used to be exclusive to my paid membership, but the strategies inside are just too valuable to keep private. And for those who don't know who I am, my name is Preston. I built a $15 million real estate portfolio and make over $400,000 yearly in net profit from my Airbnbs. In this interview, you're going to discover how Kimary spent just $25,000 to transform a rundown warehouse into a premium Airbnb that books year-round. We're also going to go over how she's making $3,000 monthly from her luxury RV in her Florida backyard. We're also going to talk about how she fired her property management company and still manages multiple Airbnbs with just 2 hours per week. We're also going to discuss a whole lot more, so with that being said, let's get into it. All right, we got Kamar here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. I know you've been doing a great job with your portfolio. We have you have 4 properties in total, 2 of them that are short-term rentals. So we'll unpack all that here in a second, but just want to, get a good understanding of for the people, like how did you start your entrepreneur journey? If you want to kind of take us back, maybe your background, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, I started 7 years ago, and I've been a super focused for 7 years now, while I lived in Puerto Rico. And I really started house hacking, and it's pretty much what I've been doing ever since. And it started because my mom found a business that was selling, and they were selling the key and also the building. And she came to me and she's like, why don't we buy this business? And, that's how you can get your career started in entrepreneurship and all that. So that's what we did. And the building was destroyed, completely destroyed. And the store, the owner was originally using both floors, both stories. And so we decided to condense and just do the first story as the business and convert the second story into my apartment, which we actually made into a 2-story apartment as well. It was a crazy thing, a crazy project, but it worked perfectly because I was able to, do the business on the first floor and then just go back to, to sleeping in my own apartment. Eventually, I started another business. So instead of renting another place, which I at the beginning started, and it was too expensive. So we're like, no, let's just put it on the second story, and then I get a house. So that's what I did. I then opened a second business on where my apartment was, and then purchased a house. And that house had the perfect layout to actually just close one small wall, and I had a 3-story house and an apartment. So then I started renting the apartment as well. So that's how I kept growing. Every time I purchased a home, then I would look at the layout and see if it had a mother-in-law suite or if I could make one. That's how.
Got it. Right. So it sounds like you found, undervalued properties. You converted them, through house hacking. It sounds like you started off and then you kind of just repeated that success over into your other projects. Does that sound about right?
Exactly.
Got it. And then did you ever work like a normal W-2 job or just like a normal 9-to-5? Or did you always, or like once you got done, with high school or whatever, did you just go straight into entrepreneurship?
No, when I got out of high school, I did go to college. I studied in, entertainment business and law, and I did recording arts. So I'm an engineer. And I was an artist after I graduated college, and did my internships and in the music industry, Warner Chappell Music, and all that stuff. And went on to my acting career, my singing career. But actually, after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico hit in 2017 or so. Well, it wasn't good for the business that I had open because it was not a basic necessity. So we were without power for a lot of months. Some people were without power for a year. So that obviously changed everything. We endured a year after the Hurricane Maria hit, but we decided to come to Florida. And so I did have to get a regular job, a W-2 job. I had my business, my Amazon business on the side while I was in Puerto Rico as well. So I started working for a company that was e-commerce, and that was my job. And yeah, so I did have a W-2 job for a little bit.
Okay. And then now you're doing, this like real estate portfolio full time, or are you still working your W-2 job?
Yes, yeah. Now I'm doing my real estate portfolio full time, and I'm also a realtor.
Awesome.
So I just do real estate all day.
Cool. I mean, that's a dream for a lot of people. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit. So thanks for kind of providing your background. Now, when you got into the short-term rental game, I know you also own long-term rentals as well. How did you decide to, shift from like long-term rentals to short-term rentals?
I think you need to use every platform available because there are good seasons, bad seasons, and so I just incorporate different platforms. I've actually also used platforms for events. So whenever I don't have guests on my properties, I just allow events to be thrown, or films, for example. So I use every resource I have to keep the properties generating income.
Yeah, that's really smart, because I think a lot of people, they talk about like, well, what do I do during slow season? I mean, there's obviously a few things you could do. Adjust your pricing. Make your listing more competitive to make it more attractive during the off season. But it's cool that you're thinking outside the box, throwing events, destinations, and that's really, and obviously it's depending on the location of your property and also the desirability of it. But there's always ways that you can make money even during the slow seasons, turn into a short midterm rental. And so people just gotta, step outside the box. And a lot of people think that this is kind of just like a set and forget it business, but obviously you can do that, but you're not going to maximize your earnings. So kind of walk me through, like, how did you kind of discover that idea of, okay, maybe during the slow season, I'm going to turn this into an event?
Well, I was looking at the amenities the properties had. So, for example, one of them had a great backyard with a pool. So I was like, yeah, I can definitely capitalize on this. And, sometimes I don't even have to rent it inside, and I could still remain, for example, that was in my house. I could remain being inside and just have the parties being thrown in my backyard. My friends were already asking for my backyard all the time. So I'm like, for free. So I'm like, maybe I should do something about this.
Smart. Got it. So, for your very first short-term rental property, how did you do the market research, and how did you ultimately end up picking that particular property?
My first, I did my first arbitrage, me.
Yeah, just your first property in general.
And my first short-term rental was again the apartments that I kept building on my own properties. But I did venture into arbitrage when I discovered you, and it's actually a very interesting story. I know that some people ask, like, is it always a successful story? And in this particular situation, it wasn't, but I'm glad that I did it. So I decided to venture into Mexico to do arbitrage. So I chose Mexico as my first arbitrage experience. And it was a little bit challenging to get all the information. We still used AirDNA, but for example, Rabu wasn't giving us any information because it was a foreign country. So we just did our numbers the best we could, and just were guided by faith and hoping that the numbers that we were making were gonna be correct. I wanted to do something different because I know that some cities were cracking down on Airbnbs. I also have a lot of friends that are in different countries, so I wanted to be able to enter the country that way, maybe recruit the help of my friends. And I also was looking for places where I would like to vacation with my family in order to do the arbitrage. And I had a partner at the time that we were doing Turo on the side, and we decided that Turo wasn't appropriate for us. So we wanted to invest in something different. So I came to my partner and said, hey, let's do arbitrage and let's do it this way. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that was basically how I chose my first arbitrage.
Got it. And then, so you have two right now. Those are located, I think you mentioned Puerto Rico and Florida, or are they both in Florida now?
One in Puerto Rico and one in Florida. I have 4 units in total,
Okay.
But yeah,
Got it. So the one in Florida, I believe that's where you're currently living, right?
yes, and that's a
Cool.
new one. I think you actually promoted it a couple of weeks ago.
I saw that. Great listing. And we'll kind of dive into, like all the amenities and all that here in a little bit. So what made you decide on the current one that you have in Florida?
Well, I purchased a new home a month or 2 months ago, and it had land and no HOA. So I decided that I could buy a tiny home and place it on the spare land. And
Cool.
it
So you're
actually obviously because it's like a little bit wooded. So I was like, oh, this is perfect for a tiny home. Like it feels secluded, but it really isn't because we're very centric.
so it sounds like you're kind of doing like a combination of house hacking, but also you using the short term rental space to do that. And you had a really genius idea, and maybe this will be a good point to share your screen and kind of show us the listing. But I believe you basically got like a camper van thing and put it in your backyard. Is that right?
Correct. That's what I did.
Cool.
Uh,
So yeah. So while you're pulling that, I mean it sounds like from the conversation that we have so far is like you just are thinking outside the box, and also just like seeing, okay, I have this spare land in my backyard. I can use this to generate income to offset your mortgage while you're living at the property. So I want people like to watching this to really start to think and like think about all the different ideas and thinking outside the box to generate income. I think it's really cool. So yeah, this is the property. Can you like talk us through kind of your thought process on what made you decide to just do a camper van instead of like building a place and then all the amenities that you've added to it?
well, at the end of the day, building was going to take time and it was going to cost me the same or even more than just buying this RV. So, which at the same time, it's a mini home. And if we ever wanted to take it out to use, we could. So with a tiny home, a regular build, I wouldn't be able to do that. So it was an opportunity to also, leverage that.
That's awesome. So all in, how much did it cost for you to build this or bring this in and like the amenities that you've chosen here?
So it was around $50,000 between, buying the RV and setting up the space for it.
Very cool spot. And people that, I mean, there's like a big trend right now going on about, people like liking tiny homes, right? And so you probably thought about that, like, okay, people want that experience of being in, kind of a small place, being in a camper van type. And obviously this is kind of like more on the luxury side, even for like, even though it is an RV, it looks, very nice and, a place that people like want to stay at. So what were some like the things that you thought about, like, okay, these are the amenities I want because this is what I know people want when they come, and visit the place?
Well, since it's a little bit secluded and in the woods, I decided to incorporate a hot tub that, even though we're in Florida, and you might think that it's hot, we do get a little bit chilly. So you could use it whenever it gets chilly, and whenever it's not chilly, then you just don't turn on the heat and you use it as a little pool. Right across the property, we have like a former golf course, and it has a lot of trails and things like that. So I decided to include bikes for people to use in the trails, or a grill whenever they use the hot tub or / pool. I just thought that those amenities were suitable for the place.
Yeah, really smart. And then as far as the profit on this property, what are we looking at for that?
We're looking at least between 3,000, between 2,000 and 3,000 a month.
Awesome. And then I know you also have the other property in Puerto Rico. I think people will be interested in that. So how did you go about finding that particular property? And then if you want to maybe show the listing as well, just so we can, the people can see what that looks like. So how did you go about picking this one particular property?
Well, this is the one that was the business.
Okay.
And so it became an Airbnb once I moved to Florida and the Hurricane Maria hit. So these walls were destroyed. There were no floors. It was basically like a warehouse. So we just turned it into this. And remember, I said that we were able to make a 2-story apartment. Well, this is a 2-story apartment. And I didn't like to be closed off, so we made all the rooms with glass walls.
Love it. And so for this particular property, how much, I'm sure, like, because you basically had to build it from the ground up, how much did it cost all in to, kind of build this place out?
Oh Lord, that was a long time ago, but I would think about, if I can recall correctly, it was about 25.
That's actually not terrible for, having to rebuild it if it was a warehouse before.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, some work my husband did, so we saved a little bit on that.
Cool. And then what does this property generate in income?
Yeah, around the average is around $2,000.
Awesome. So, you have, these listings that you have up now, up and running.
Mhm.
Talk to me about how you run the operations side of it. Do you guys manage it yourself? Do you have cleaners that come in and clean the place? Like, what does that look like?
I do manage it myself. I have cleaners. Well, basically, at one point I had a company, and that was the only period in my Airbnb history that I wasn't able to achieve a superhost. So unfortunately, I had to dismiss them and go back to training my people with my system, and then we went back to being superhost.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what the same experience. I was talking to one of the other students in the program, and like, he used a property management company. They were completely and his listing is great. I had all the amenities, but they were completely just tanking his revenue, but also just the reviews that he was getting. He, fired them, and now he's making like 10, 20, even 20x more profit than he was before. And he's managing it better, and it doesn't take him, like, it's not a full-time job to manage it. How long do you think you would say you put into your property per week once you have like all the systems, all the setup in place?
I would say maybe 2 hours a week.
Yeah, people like don't believe me. Like, I always tell them, like, okay, I have 7 properties. They're like, oh, that's probably a full-time job. And I'm like, it really isn't. We have, the software in place, right? We have the systems, the processes. We have, our boots on the ground team. It maybe takes me 1 to 2 hours per week of my time to oversee it and manage everything. And we're still able to get, consistent 5-star reviews. So
Yeah.
talk to us about, some of the software and maybe some of the systems that you have in place to be able to only work a couple hours per week on your business.
Yeah. Well, I just use Price Labs for now. At some point, I did use Guesty for hosts when I had the property in Mexico, because that property was also getting booked on Booking.com. So I didn't need the assistance of Guesty. But at this point, I with Price Labs, I'm fine.
Yeah. And then for those that don't know,
obviously you set up some automated messages, but I'm still on top of it. I don't rely too much on automated messages. I actually like to send them myself.
Got it. Yeah. And for those that don't know, Price Labs is a dynamic pricing tool that adjusts your pricing depending on demand. And then Guesty for Hosts is, calendar sync, and also a template where you can combine all your like Airbnb, VRBO listings and then bring it into one, so that way you don't get double bookings and whatnot. So that's really how you automate your business without having this turn into like a full-time job. But let's kind of shift gears a little bit. Now, talk to me about your kind of long-term plans. Like, what do you want? Do you want to continue to grow your portfolio? What's kind of your dream cash flow number looking like? And obviously you're working in this business full-time now. But what is kind of your long-term vision of this business here for you?
Well, right now I'm content with the amount of responsibilities or properties that I have. I'm able to, house tag. Offset my mortgage in some cases completely. So I'm happy with that. I have a couple of proposals to manage other people's properties, and I'm not closed off to that. But I know that if I take on that responsibility, I'm going to have to delegate a little bit more. So I think that's what my future brings. And I'm open to it.
Yeah, I think bring up a good point, because like once you figure out this business model, because there's so many other people out there that don't understand it, right? Like, they have great properties that could be turned into a short-term rental, but they don't understand like everything that goes into it. So essentially you can come in, be a consultant, and then you can take a percentage of the profit to help them manage it, help them get it set up. And that way it's, win-win scenario for you and the party. And I know there's a lot of students in the program that are kind of shifting towards that, where they're able to go and take properties on from other landlords, and then they just take a percentage and they, kind of manage everything out. So it sounds like that's kind of something similar that you want to go down eventually.
Yes.
Love it. Cool. So, before we hop off here, do you have any like words of advice for someone that's wanting to get into this business? What would you say to that person?
I would say to go for it. I mean, you won't achieve anything just sitting in the sidelines. And I have to admit that I did follow you for a while before I actually committed to the program. I wanted to make sure, that I was investing in the correct person.
Yeah.
I was also being approached by different profiles that were impersonating you. So I was like, But once I analyzed everything, I went to your seminars and saw that you were giving a lot of information for free already. I was like, I could only benefit even more by just joining. And yes, I would not sit on the sidelines. The more you wait, you're just postponing what your new life could be.
Yeah. No, appreciate the kind words. And yeah, for those that don't know, if you do get a DM from me about investing into some crypto coin, then just please ignore it. Block them. There's a lot of scammers out there, and unfortunately, there's not much I can do about it. But Kimary, thank you so much for hopping on, and thank you for sharing, the insights of your business. Congrats to all your success, and really excited to see where you take this in the future.
My pleasure. And whoever has any ideas or even wants some advice or suggestions, I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you're tired of watching others succeed with Airbnb and you're serious about building your own business, me and my team can help you make that happen. If you're interested, click the link below to apply for a free consultation. We'll set up a time to chat about how we can work together to build your Airbnb business and scale to $10,000 per month and beyond. This isn't a sales call or anything like that. On this call, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you some questions to really understand if this real estate model is going to be the right move for you. You can ask any questions that you have as well. The link to apply is right below in the description. All right, with that being said, we'll see you in the next video.